Thanks for staying with us. Now, according to Nigeria Energy Solutions, energy plays the most vital role in the economic growth, progress and development, as well as poverty eradication and security of any nation. Uninterrupted energy supply is a vital issue for all countries today. Future economic growth crucially depends on the long-term availability of energy from sources that are affordable, accessible, and environmentally friendly. The impact of energy cannot be overemphasized. It supports the provision of basic needs such as cooked food, a comfortable living temperature, lighting and use of appliances, pipe-borne water or sewage, essential health care, and intensive care and educational aids, communication, such as radio, television, electronic mail, and the World Wide Web, and transport. So we need to find ways to change the current power landscape rather in Nigeria with the cost, right? Making it a lot more effective and finding lasting solutions to our power challenges in the country. And that's why we're having the conversation today. Please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica on the hashtag WayShow. So let me quickly come to the ladies, like in a minute or two before I bring in Wiebe. So I had to do solar and what did they call them? Inverter system. Although it's not so big, but at least it keeps the lights running. You can use your fan and all of that. In my house, we just upgraded to the one that can power the fridges and all of that. So that takes off the headache of, because it was really painful, food, preservation. You put your food in the fridges and the freezers, and because it's not powered, you get to throw away loads of, food stuff and all of that you do not even have the money to buy it anyway, because inflation and all of that is impacting. So for me, I think when we did that, it really, really eased off a lot of tension on our, the power challenges that we have in the. But how many people can afford it? Because initial sunk cost for solar is quite on the high side, even though some people are already looking for ways to partner with the clients to do like monthly installments and all of that. So you don't have to bring out all the money all at once. But let me hear your thoughts. What are the kinds of solar solutions that you're thinking? Power solutions that you're thinking of, or what have you done? How is the power like in your own area? Because almost 250,000 naira per month for electricity, that's ridiculous.
It's actually ridiculous. But like you said, I think what I had to do, especially when this hike in diesel, just surfaced, I had to go the solar way. So I already had working inverters in my house and in my office. So what I did is I just added the solar panels. So now, even when I don't have the generator in the estate powering my inverter and charging it, I have the solar that is charging. So in the office, it's the same thing, because the cost in diesel almost tripled. So it didn't make sense to spend that kind of money buying diesel anymore. So I went for the solar panels. So and so far so good, it's working. So at the end of the day, we have become our own government, because these are things that the government is supposed to provide for us. Now we have had to, like you said, it's very cost intensive. Yeah, so we are spending so much money in providing electricity for ourselves, and it's damaging to the pocket.
Very, very.
In my experience, of course, everybody now with, as Manny has said, because your pocket decides for you what you do. Exactly. And necessity is the mother of invention. So when diesel goes through the roof, because we all made our peace, generators got cheaper, we all found a way, whether it's 1 kVA, 5 kVA, you usually found the one that your pockets could run. And we all went on as BAU. And then something comes to shake that reality. And then we start to find solutions. Now, it's bad and good at the same time, because people are suffering the effects of the cost in diesel. Even if you can afford solar, the bread and the businesses that are all you're buying from, that cost still comes back to you. So we still are feeling it. But on the plus side, solar, it's getting a little quieter. The air is getting a little cleaner. So there are upsides to us going to alternative energies. But my question is this. You are your own government. You have thought of the solution. You have found a provider, and you have done it. and we have moved on. Now, every time I drive past Marina, down this way, Lekki, we're right by the ocean. The water is there, the wind is there. Why we don't have wind farms, why we're not leveraging hydro. Like, I'm not the expert, but from my layman, I'm just like, guys, what's the problem?
We have no business being out of power because we have everything.
If it comes to alternative solutions, the investment shouldn't be yours. The investment should be the government. Because, I mean, in my situation, I don't have to do any of this because a company has come and given us a grid that is off the grid.
But it's an arm and a leg.
It's at an arm. In fact, at this point, it's arm, leg, neck, toes, fingers, and everything. At this point, at some point, I'm just going to have to submit to myself and say, cut a piece and let's, power the house and keep on moving. But so that's the sad part of it for me. It's just that we are having to be creative in our power solutions where... And, when I think about it, power is not a conversation in many parts of the world. It's a moot point.
No, a lot of things that we talk about here
it's a big issue. Well, let me bring in our guest, Dr. Boer is the Chief Executive Officer of Orlan, and he joined the team from Boston Consulting Group, that's BCG, where he was one of the founders of the strategy firm's Lagos office. Prior to BCG, Dr. Boer spent 5 years with the Hares Holding Group in Lagos, playing roles including Chief of Staff to the Chairman, Director of Strategy and CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation. Dr. Boer has also worked in Rockefeller Foundation's Africa Regional Office in Nairobi, McKinsey and Company, and with World Vision Mauritania, where he managed a USAID-funded development project. And he's joined us. He's a friend of the house. He's not a stranger to the show. He's joined us live in studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Wiebe Boer.
Thank you for having me again.
So you heard all the conversation. I saw you nodding. Dr. Wiebe.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine paying electricity of 250,000 naira per month. It is crazy. And we're talking how we can change the landscape of the power, the power challenges that we have in this country. I mean, Uti made a very vital point, because I remember when I was traveling I took a bus ride from Amsterdam to Paris, right? And you could see the giant windmills across that stretch. It was everywhere. You could just be seeing them big fans just turning and all of that. For everything that has to do with alternate power or alternate energy, Nigeria is blessed with so much. Like, we have literally everything. Is it sun we're looking for? Is it wind? It depends on the region you go to in Nigeria. But at every point in time, we have what it takes to be able to have, top-notch power solutions. Why are we still having struggles with that sector in Nigeria?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we have the worst performing grid in the world, so the cheapest power is always going to be from the grid because of the economies of scale. And as you know, we have 4,000 megawatts on a good day on the grid to serve 200 million people. We should have 200,000 megawatts as a minimum to have minimum development. So we're so far behind. And as you were talking about, most Nigerians have used the solution of a diesel or petrol generator to fill the gap. So we have 40,000 megawatts of power generated, self-generated, by all the small and large petrol and diesel generators all over Nigeria, 10 times what's on the grid. And it's incredibly inefficient to generate location by location. So it may actually be a blessing in disguise that the hike in diesel prices means that we have to move on from that over-reliance. Because that over-reliance has made it very difficult for solar and other renewable energy sources to actually find a market. Because essentially it's not the grid we're competing with, because the grid is a disaster. We're actually our companies are competing with diesel generators. So now that diesel is so expensive, the economics finally works. And so it may actually be a blessing in disguise. And I know that that's probably not what people want to hear. But I mean, now's the time where you just need to say, you know what, let me pack the generator and let me go look for a solar solution. And the good thing is that now there's enough companies out there that are providing solar solutions in the manner you mentioned, where it's more like pay-as-you-go power. You can do that all the way as a small solar home system, which can be as 50, 60, 70 watts. That's to light a few light bulbs, charge a phone, maybe run a TV and a fan. And again, those are sold on a pay-as-you-go basis, so that even very low-income consumers can buy that. Then they have solar energy systems, which is probably more what you got. Where again, it's the upfront cost, if you paid the whole thing, would be 3-4 million naira. But a lot of companies will say, okay, just pay 50,000, 70,000, whatever it is a month, and then it's either an ongoing payment for the power or eventually you own it over time. And then you can go all the way to the mini grid, the solar mini grid, which basically covers a whole community in the same way. It's not the community that pays for the mini grid, it's the company. You know, they get funding from investors, they build the mini grid, and then they charge the community for the power as they use it, as a utility is supposed to. And through those ways, solar is now becoming more and more affordable, you know, to roll out. Now, you mentioned the other potential clean energy sources. Wind is actually, Nigeria is actually not that well positioned for wind. There's just the way the wind patterns are. There's a bit along the coast, but it's not very strong. The best place for wind is actually the plateau, because you have the wind from the Atlantic and the wind from the Sahara coming together, and it's high elevation. But most of Nigeria is actually not that suitable for wind power. That's why we don't see it that much. And then hydro, obviously, you need water that's going downhill, basically. So you need that, or else you can't generate enough power. So solar really is, you know, the best
bet.
renewable for now. Waste to energy should be coming, but that is often too expensive, especially in the Nigerian context where we don't have a proper waste collection system. So for where waste to energy, whether it's from agriculture waste or, you know, just sort of general sort of household waste, where it works economically is where there's a proper collection system and you're actually paid to take the waste and use it to generate power. In Nigeria, you have to pay for the waste and then the economics don't work. So those are some of the things we have to fix. But for now, you know, solar is here, the sort of the right kind of products for the right consumer segments and all that is there. The payment systems are there. So it's really ready to take off. You know, and I think now that diesel is where it is, it really has a chance to do so.
You have a question?
Yes, I was just going to say, because I've learned a lot in a few seconds that you've said. And I think it's great when you ask questions, because sometimes you make assumptions and it's good to get clarity. But what would you say is the state of, in Nigeria today, of people's understanding? I know we all talk about solar, but I understand that there's even some peculiarities with solar where if the panel gets too hot, it can get easily damaged. Do Nigerians understand enough about solar? Today, it's being pushed by the economics of it, but do we even understand enough of it to be able to leverage it as a solution?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's actually something that the companies we invested, we're investors. We've invested in about 50 companies now, almost. 40 of them are Nigerian owned and operated. So we're really, you know, investing in Nigerian entrepreneurs to deliver this. But what they find with most consumers is they don't understand solar. We have become very familiar and very comfortable with our diesel generators. You know, you understand how it works. You put fuel in it, you turn it on somehow, you hear the noise, you know it's generating. When you're done needing it, you turn it off, it's quiet. So it's like, there's a real, it's something we really understand and we see and we feel. But with solar, it's installed and then there's no noise, there's no fuel, there's no, you know, so it's like, how does this actually work? And then for a lot of us, our experience with solar in Nigeria over the last few decades has been what we call political solar, where, you know, some state governor will say, oh, let's put solar street lights, or, you know, some donor agency will do that, and then they cut a ribbon, make a big splash, and then in 2 weeks they don't work. I saw some solar streetlight installations in Enugu, for example, where the solar panels for the streetlights were in a forest. So it's as if they were installed in a way that they just didn't want it to work, right? And so when you see that year after year, those are the exposure you have to solar, your assumption is solar doesn't work. And then there's also been pretty strong messaging, and I don't know from where, but you can guess, that is spreading kind of these stories that, okay, solar can't take an AC, can't take a fridge, you know, and so what people don't realize is, okay, if the solar capacity is what a generator capacity is, it will power the same thing. But what will happen is somebody will, let's say, invest in a 50 kVA generator and then put in, like, you know, 20 kilowatts of solar, like less than half the capacity, and then ask, oh, why can't the solar do the same thing? Well, it's not the same capacity. So you have to be able to compare like to like, and often that's not done. So there's a lot that has to be done with that awareness. Obviously, again, the cost of diesel now means people are more open to that awareness. And it's something that, you know, we're primarily investors, but we also work on that promotion. And so we've done a lot that we can. We have the radio show on Nigeria Info.
Yeah, I was going to say that you do a lot of education. I listen to that show almost every Monday. Yeah. And
there's a couple of skits by Mark Angel Comedy that now have solar messaging, you know, embedded in them, and that's the kind of thing that we need to move forward. But ultimately, we need sort of major influencers in Nigeria, whether business people, entertainers and all that who now come forward and say, okay, I put, well, maybe this can be you. Because you already said it here. You put solar on your house and then you kind of get people to now say, okay, this actually works. And this is something that you can aspire to. Because I think right now the aspiration is a louder and bigger generator. Because that shows, now big man.
Exactly.
But if you put a solar panel, nobody will hear it. They'll think, no, wow, they don't get money again. The generator don't pack up. And so we have to figure out a way to make solar an aspirational thing. And then I think it will help.
Okay, let's go on a very short break. When we come back from the break, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we're having an amazing chat with Dr. Wiebe Boer on changing the power landscape in Nigeria with cost-effective solutions. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at WeShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WeShow. So, Wiebe, I was speaking with my friend yesterday. I was shouting and complaining that how can I spend 30K in 1 week? Like, I literally just paid for power, and in a week 30K was gone. And she now said, oh, well, that's cheap.
That's cheap.
I am actually paying 250,000 per month. When I did the division, it's like 70-something K per week. That's crazy. I think for me, I don't, why are you looking at me funny? But wait. So the question I want to ask is, because we know that the way estates are run in Lagos especially, I'm not sure about other parts of Lagos, other parts of Nigeria, most of the estate have their utilities, they have their facility managers, and they have their own kind of like their power solutions where you buy the power and all of that. So is it possible for us to start looking into like the mini grids you talked about, powering a community? So estate by estate, we start to find, would that make it any cheaper if we say we want to start deploying solars into this small communities, I'll call them, as estates, would it make it cheaper? Because I feel like 250K per month is too much.
Yeah, it definitely should make it cheaper. I mean, the issue with an estate in Lagos will be, is there enough space for the solar panels? But if you would put panels, let's say on every rooftop to start with, and then find, carports, things like that to put the panels, you can certainly then at least it reduce the cost of daytime power. Once you add batteries and all that, then it starts to get really, really expensive at that scale. But if you put panels all over the estate, then the amount of you can turn the generator off for part of the day during the daytime, and then maybe just have it on at night, and then obviously you reduce the bill. But there's a catch. There's a reason why estate managers and so on will fight that. That's because of diesel over invoicing, right? So in offices, estates, and all that, whether public sector, private sector, social sector, diesel deliveries happen every day, several times a week, and there is a habit of over invoicing where you deliver, let's say, 700 liters and charge for 1,000. That 300 liters, the money then is paid for, but the diesel was never delivered, and so there's 300 liters worth of naira that is now shared. Now, the volume of that nationally, on an annual basis, the data shows it's about $5 billion a year that is stolen across Nigeria from over invoicing diesel deliveries.
Yeah,
wow,
right? So that's true.
So part of the reason why it's probably 250,000 is because 50,000 of that maybe you're paying for diesel that was never delivered. And so obviously if you now have solar, there's no fuel to buy and there's no over invoicing unless the government starts charging you for the sun, which as of now they can't. But I think that's actually a serious part of this and a serious part of the conversation, that it's like the elephant in the room that nobody actually wants to talk about. But $5 billion a year shared across all of these, companies and offices, buildings, and estates. I mean, that's a lot of money. And there's a lot of people through that, if you're in security, procurement, estate management, office management, whatever, you pad your salary significantly through this. And there's no way you're going to allow solar to come in. So these are the people that then, when decisions are being made about potentially procuring solar, they're the ones who come up with all the stories about, but the rain is too much in Lagos, or in the north, the Harmattan is too this. And all of this stuff, which there's solar, you can generate power from solar at the Arctic Circle. We are almost at the equator. So obviously, no matter how hard it rains, we will generate power. But those excuses are made and all that so that system doesn't change. And ultimately, that's what has to change. So again, the increased diesel prices, I would actually recommend the government keep it at that level. Tax diesel. Make it so unaffordable that everybody just says, look, at this point, we can't keep up this system. What's interesting, though, is some generator companies have told me that in spite of the recent, last 2-3 months, the increase in diesel, that they're actually selling far more diesel generators than they were before. The only explanation is that people will say now that diesel is so much more expensive. When you over invoice the 300 liters, it's a lot more money.
Oh my God.
So it's totally counterintuitive when you think of it from economic logic, but when it's self-interest, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, the only thing I would say is what goes up must come down. So it's, even if they continue doing this for this time, I think it'll get to a point where they won't be able to do it again. So when we're talking about solar and the cost of solar, we were talked about some companies making it cheaper for some people now, allowing people to pay monthly. And then you talked about other alternatives to generating power. You talked about the hydro power plant, nuclear power plant. What would be cheaper? Because some people, no matter how much they pay monthly, they still cannot afford solar. So what else would be cheaper for these people? What other power generating process can we get?
So any time when most of our economy is run by you generating your own power for your own small shop, house, office, whatever, and that's what makes it so expensive here, right? If we had a proper functioning grid, and it's not a national grid we need because that's outdated, but more like localized grids, powered by gas, because we have abundant gas resources, that's actually going to give you the most cheapest power. So even the estates you're talking about, Shell and others are putting pipelines through the Lekki corridor and all that, so that eventually all these estates
just plug and play.
Yeah, and then you have a gas generator, and then it's always going to be the cheapest. And while gas is not a renewable energy, it is a much cleaner energy source than diesel or petrol generators.
And cheaper. Then how about a steady power supply? Would it be steady? Gas?
As long as you have gas supply, of course.
It's steady. Okay.
Well, remember that even now, about 80% of our grid power is generated by gas. The gas power plants all over the south.
So, I was just going to ask, when you made the clarification about hydro and water flowing downwards, the same dams we've had in Nigeria, we probably had my entire lifetime, the Kainji Dam.
Right.
And are there other locations in Nigeria where we potentially could put in dams today?
Right. Yeah, so I believe the dams that are on the Niger River now, we can't put any more because those are based on treaties with countries where the Niger River flows before it comes to Nigeria.
Right.
So we've made agreements with all these countries that, okay, don't put dams on the Niger River, and then we will actually sell you or actually give you power. So that's why Nigeria is giving power to Niger and Benin Republic, because otherwise they'll just build a dam on the Niger River, and then we won't get power from our dams. Will come this way, right. So we can't put any more on the Niger River, but we should be able to put some on the Benue River. There's the huge project to do 3,000 megawatts on the Mambila Plateau. And that one is more leveraging, the huge, the plateau is obviously very high elevation and there's water flowing down. But that one again, okay, even if you do the 3,000 megawatt generation there, where are you going to evacuate it to? Because our grid can't actually accommodate any more power. So you'd have to build an entire new kind of regional grid to accommodate that amount. And that one, 3,000 megawatts is going to cost at least $3 billion. So these are major projects. But in addition to that, there's I can't remember what the number was, but there's over 100. I hope I get this right. Let me just say there's a lot of small hydro dams that have been built around Nigeria. It's somewhere around like 200 megawatts worth of power. So it's not huge, but at a local level, if you have a small dam that's generating 2-3 megawatts, that could actually then just power the local community. It could be quite helpful. Yeah. But there's about 200 megawatts of that the projects have started. Some of them have been completed, but they've never operated. And so it's another example where a resource we have, investments have been made. There was one, I believe this was in Kogi State somewhere. The only thing, it was like a 2 megawatt small hydro project that all that was left was the evacuation line from the hydro where it was generated to like the nearest grid line, which is a fraction of the total cost, and that was never put in. And so this thing has just been sitting there dormant for decades. So we have projects like that all over Nigeria. And again, we just really need to unlock all of these. No, these are all government. These are all government, and these are and there's been talk of, okay, they're going to concession these, but then that becomes a difficult process. And then how much effort do you want to go through to concession a 2 megawatt? These are things that the government should just say, okay, guys,
just take.
Who's interested? Let's make this straightforward. Take it, generate it, run it, and start getting power to the people.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
It's interesting. But do you see us doing well when it comes to, finding real solutions to power in Nigeria? Do you see us, are we on the right track?
Right. Well, there has to be political will. You mentioned earlier that, okay, the government should provide power. That's totally wrong. That's actually our mistake, is that for so long, power has been seen as a public good. It is a business. Everywhere else in the world, if you get power, you pay money for it. It is a product or service just like anything else. And in Nigeria, for too long, because it was NEPA, because it was dominated by the government monopoly, we sort of saw that power was something the government should provide us. It's not a service like healthcare and education. Power is a service that you should pay for because it has value. So, so does healthcare and education. But, and so we need to get out of that mindset. And so that's kind of the first step, is we have to, if power is delivered to us, we need to pay for it. Secondly, the government needs to really unlock the regulation and just open it up to, and states are starting to do this. Lagos is implementing their own power policy so that they can actually generate power here and build their own grids and all that, and cut off from the federal grid, which isn't working. And then the other solutions are, we really need to unlock all of our gas resources, make those available everywhere. We need to do things to really reduce the cost of solar so that we're not paying import taxes, which adds jacks up the cost. On and on. There's just so many things that we can do in Nigeria, but it ultimately has to be political will, and it has to be that those people who are in leadership positions and in decision-making positions, who may be benefiting from the fact that the grid doesn't work and that power doesn't work because of the diesel sharing, that they have to be willing to say, okay, enough is enough. Our power sector is actually a global embarrassment, and we need to just do something about this, and then allow it. Look, I mean, power, the electricity grids and all that, it's 150-year-old technology. This is not something new. This is not rocket science. And the fact that we're even talking about it in Nigeria is an unfortunate thing. It's taking so much away from just building the country, building the economy. Most countries in the world, even small little African countries that are surrounding us, when you walk into a room, the only time you think about the electricity is when you turn on the light, because it turns on and it's there. It's only Nigeria. I mean, tiny countries like Togo, Benin, Niger, these places have functioning power sectors.
They'll tell you it's because the country is tiny, that's why they have
it. I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of myths that we need to, and we've all grown up with it, we've all heard it.
And we just learned one now, saying that power is not actually something the government is supposed to give us.
And I should give an example though. There's a company on the plateau called Nesco, not Nasco, the biscuit company, but Nesco. So I think it's the Nigeria Electric Supply Company. It was started 1929, so over 90 years ago, to power the tin mines. And it was basically a network of small hydro dams all over the plateau. And the first one was built in 1926, and then the rest since then. And they were powering the tin mines and that whole ecosystem. Then when the tin mining kind of collapsed in the 70s and 80s, then they were basically licensed to they were the only company that was licensed to be, they were completely independent from government, never taken over by NEPA. And they were the only company that was licensed to generate, transmit, and distribute power. Right now you have
in Jos,
and it's in the plateau. It's next to Jos. So 7 local governments, rural local governments outside Jos, had for 90 years 24/7 power.
Yes.
No generators.
Whoa.
And it worked. And it just proves that we can do this. It's not rocket science. We've done it in Nigeria. Another place is Bonny Island. NLNG has worked with the Bonny community to set up the Bonny Utility Company, which is powered by gas from NLNG. And the tariffs are highly subsidized and all that, but I mean, Bonny has 24/7 power. It works. So it's not that we can't do it, it's just that there's self-interests that are getting in the way of it, and that have made us normalize it and think that this is how it's supposed to be, but it is not.
Let's take some comments. While we're taking comments, Wiebe, you have some announcements for us.
Oh, I do. No, you can make the announcement.
I mean, Wiebe is going to be going to how do I put it now? The educational institution to serve as the vice chancellor, right? That's University of Canning.
No, it's called Calvin University.
Calvin University,
in the U.S.
So tell us about that. How is it going to be for you? You know, transitioning from solar, because you've talked solar for a very long time. How would that be for you, running a business? I mean, running a university.
So, you know, I only started solar 5 years ago when I started in Olan.
It seems like it seems like 50 years ago.
The day I have a PhD in history. I don't have any training in electrical engineering. The day that I started at Olan, I didn't know what PV was. I didn't know what a mini grid was, what solar home system was. And basically, because I'm an ex-McKinsey and BCG consultant, you learn new sectors very quickly and fool people very quickly. And so I've kind of done that several times in my career where I've pivoted to new sectors and then learned them very quickly. So this is I'm now going into the education sector. I'm going to be, it's called, the title is president of Calvin University, but it's like a vice chancellor. So it's the executive kind of CEO of the institution. And so because of that, I have to leave here. I'll be moving to Michigan. I've been, as you know, I was born and raised in Jos. I lived in Jos, or northern Nigeria, for almost 18 to 20 years.
Wow.
And I've now been in Lagos for the last 12 years. Wow. So I've spent 2/3 of my life in Nigeria, and it's obviously going to be a big switch.
Big one.
And, I'm still going to obviously be very in touch with Nigeria and all that. So I'm not saying goodbye. I'm still here.
You cannot say goodbye, because I was going to say to you that we have a big issue. You've solved some problem for us, which is power, with a lot of solutions, a lot of companies you partnered with to ensure that power solutions are going into the rural communities and even, some cities as well. So I cannot wait to see what you would do with our educational sector, because I know you cannot just become the president of a university in Nigeria, in the US, and not find a way to plug it back into Nigeria.
So you go there and then you come back.
So how are you planning to impact our educational sector? I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot. Well, obviously, once I learn the ropes of how a university is run and how to do it very well, I can certainly engage with particularly private universities here.
Absolutely.
In fact, the first vice chancellor that I spent time with after my appointment was Enase Okenedo at Pan Atlantic University, and she's one of the most experienced university administrators in not just Nigeria, but Africa.
Wow.
And just in an hour, I learned so much from her. So I'm going to obviously learn from my peers here, but then also find ways to connect and interact.
Awesome.
From Michigan to different universities here.
Awesome. We're looking forward to more, and definitely we'll keep in touch. But let's take some comments.
Okay, so I have a first one from Suleiman in Bauchi, who says, "Do you know why I don't miss your program? I use solar and." He says NEPA, but I guess that's what it is. I use solar and NEPA to charge my battery. So thank you, Suleiman, for sharing that. I'm not sure, this one has no name.
It's from him as well.
It's from Suleiman as well. He says, do you have any relationship with the Energy Commission of Nigeria? That might be directed at Dr. Boer. And then the final one is from Bobby Kennedy. He says, what's going on Swiss? I'm not sure what that part is. Can be done in Nigeria. So I guess
what's going on in Swiss, I think.
Okay. Can be done in Nigeria. So the problem is zeal and willing. Our leaders are just crooks. I'm part of it. So Bobby Kennedy is alluding to being part of the problem. But we've already touched on the fact that political will is really a huge part of solving the problem.
Manny, quickly, your comment.
Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #ways concerning the change in the power landscape in Nigeria and cost-effective solution. It has to start somewhere. As I'm typing this comment, we have not had power supply for 5 days now, since Monday, and the amount of money spent on diesel alone is enough to buy a brand new generator. It is really frustrating. Even the electricity tariffs have increased. Let there be light at least. Sister Uwa made mention of spending 250K on electricity alone. This is highly unacceptable. Sister Manny Money said spending so much on electricity alone damages the pocket, and when you do so, there are no funds to handle other responsibilities. It is really sad, and it's a big issue. My name is Daniel Ilo, regular Ways fan.
Thank you, Daniel. So I think there's one more comment. Uti, your hairstyle, always off the hook. You are talking real sense. Thank you. All right, so we have a minute to go.
I think she did her hair like this so that we would be mad.
Yeah.
I knew you were
I would
coming,
feel
so I
welcome,
had
yeah.
to wait.
But Bo, what would you say, you know, if you had something to say to the government in like a minute, and let's wrap up the show?
Yeah, I think get serious about it and stop making promises and just get it done. It's not that hard. Just have the will and do it and get rid of the self-interest.
So if they called you, for instance, to come and become Minister of Power, would you turn down the other? He's not answering.
Well, they first have to let me have a Nigerian passport.
Right.
They'll give you that in a second.
They'll give you that.
Just
You know,
solve
I'm
our
just thinking
problems.
like, you know, if we had someone that is progressive as a minister for power, maybe.
Yeah, we won't be here.
Yeah, all those bottlenecks will be out of the picture. But thank you so much, Dr. Boer. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Manny. Thank you, Uti. We had a fantastic conversation. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagram at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. Now, if you missed today's quote, here it is again. We will make electricity so cheap that only the rich people will burn candles. This was from Thomas A. Edison. We're hoping this will be a reality in Nigeria. We'll see you guys live on Monday at 8 p.m. as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.